We've got about an hour and a half this evening, so let's go ahead and get started. And first, let me quickly go over the agenda for this evening. So if we could advance to the next slide. So let's go over the agenda for this evening. So first, I'm going to give a quick welcome and introduction of myself and HBCU Connect and the opportunity for you guys this evening here with VHB. Then I'm going to introduce the CEO, Mike Carragher, there at VHB. Mike's going to give you some background on the company and the opportunities and a little bit about himself as well. Then we're going to have a culture conversation, and I'm going to introduce Carrie Coker, who will share the platform or share the microphone virtually with Mike as well, to have a little bit of a culture conversation so that you can get a better idea of who VHB as a company culturally speaking. Then once they finish up with the culture conversation, I'd like to introduce you to the team members that have taken their time out to share their experiences with you all. So we're going to introduce each team member that represent different parts of the company, get to know them a little bit, and then we're going to have a panel discussion where I'm going to ask some a little bit deeper dive questions about their background, about the VHB culture, things they like about the culture and like working at VHB. Then after the panel discussion, we'll have a brief Q&A, so you'll be able to engage. So if you have questions, you can ask those questions in the chat. But I also encourage you, if you have questions, to ask those questions as we go. So you can use the chat to ask questions in the chat. I'll try to keep an eye on it and ask those questions to our presenters. Or if you'd like to engage someone that's already, taking the time to present, and you'd like to ask them questions directly, feel free to use the chat to do that. But then we'll have a breakout room discussion. So this is going to be a great opportunity for you to engage on a little bit more of an intimate level with the different team members in the functional areas that are represented. So you'll be able to go out off into the breakout rooms, engage with the team. Then we'll come out of the breakout rooms and then pretty much give you next steps and end the event this evening. Okay, so next slide. A little bit about myself. My name is Will Moss. A lot of you guys have seen the communications that have come from myself and HBCU Connect. Most of you are already familiar with our organization, but those of you that are new to our organization, that it's their first time engaging to learn more about VHB and HBCU Connect, we are an opportunity engine. We're here to present opportunities to you from companies that actually care about diversity. So, VHB is here tonight. They actually have lots of opportunities that you can take advantage of. So I highly encourage you to engage this evening, take notes, and take advantage of this opportunity to get to know them better. So without further ado, I know most of you have tuned in, of course, to meet the team at VHB. So we're going to start with a presentation from the CEO of VHB, Mike Carragher, who is also the chairman of the board, and Carrie Coker, who's the chief people officer. So Mike, if you're ready.
Thanks, Will. It's really great to be here, and thanks for everybody joining us tonight. Before I dive in and kind of tell you about VHB, the first thing I think is fun to do is kind of give you a glimpse at how we think at VHB, what we're thinking about, and the types of just exciting projects throughout the East Coast of the US that we get to have fun working on and helping our clients, and in our own little way, making our communities and our world a better place, one project at a time. So let's start off with kind of the things we're thinking about and how we think about them. just gives you a little glimpse of kind of the stuff that's constantly running through our mind. And, what we're thinking about is we're kind of working on projects. Now, we get the chance to work on projects that just are changing the face of our cities in the US. Here in Boston, it's our hometown. And one of the great things we're getting to do right now, the two big towers you see off on the right side, we're helping to transform kind of downtown Boston. And this is one of the projects through kind of an innovative approach to permitting and design, which is going to result in kind of 6 new buildings, kind of high rise and mid rise, about 1 million square feet of office, 800 new residential units, and really all of this helping change a whole part of the city that's just really taking on a more of kind of a live, work, and play atmosphere these days. We're also working at airports all across the country. Here you see LaGuardia in New York City, and VHB is working and has been working with LaGuardia for a long time to kind of manage the traffic. But now we're helping them to think about, well, how do you manage the traffic as you slowly take apart LaGuardia and rebuild it bit by bit by bit. So it's a real live management of what's going on there on the property and the staging of construction. Further down the East Coast, down in St. Pete in Florida, we're helping them. We just kind of finished working with them on a sustainable and kind of resilient approach to how to really move their city forward, and what resulted in an integrated sustainability master plan. And it was one that really was recognized as one of the few projects that was really embracing this in a holistic way, and was recognized by the American Cities Climate Challenge as one of the top 25 cities approaching this. So we're really helping them think about sustainability, resiliency, and an equitable future for their city. We also do a lot of work. Another project around airports is, okay, this is down in Atlanta, and right in the center of this shot is Atlanta Airport. But how do you get to and from the airport if you're working at the airport, if you're commuting to it, or if you're developing business that's supportive of what's going on in the airport property? So looking at a full array of mobility options, from highway to transit to pedestrian and bicycle access, freight mobility. These are all things that we're helping Atlanta and Hartsfield at Jacksonville Airport work on. We work at colleges and universities really throughout the country, helping them think about master planning their universities and then enhancing it and kind of making it more kind of inviting, and helping them think about their growth plans, but helping kind of keep that feeling of a quality of life on their campus. And colleges and universities are one of the great ones to really approach sustainability with. If you can go back to that, that's what you're seeing here is a example of one of the, I'm sorry, the next slide. What you're seeing here is an example of one of the structural projects that we just finished up here in Massachusetts. And this is a really amazing project in which we were doing an accelerated construction process where we used hydraulic jacks to move this 2 million pound slab, really a portion of a bridge, into place, helping reduce the downtime for a major thoroughfare and get this bridge and road back up and running really quick. An exciting piece of kind of breakthrough thinking for how you design structures. We're looking at transit systems and how do you really kind of reconnect and link cities together throughout the East Coast. What you see here is a light rail study that we've been doing with Brooklyn and Queens, the Brooklyn-Queens connector that would connect 12 different neighborhoods on the east side of the East River in New York City. We're also doing a lot of work on how do you really infuse technology into, again, thinking about life in a city. We're working with Orlando on their future ready city master plan to help them really leverage different elements of technology and to collaborate with all the different parts of the city, the communities, the neighborhoods, to really, again, create a more sustainable, equitable, and smarter city. I'm sure everybody is hearing about climate change and sea level rise. Well, nowhere is this more important to a city than Norfolk, Virginia. This is on the eastern branch of the Elizabeth River, where the Ohio Creek comes in just on the left side of the screen. The community in the foreground here, Chesterfield Heights and the Grandy Park neighborhood, are really troubled by sea level rise here. Believe it or not, it's the second highest impacted area in the US with sea level rise. So we've been working on developing a resilient shoreline for them to protect them so that they can really think about their future and not be worried by constant flooding and being undulated with the rising river there. We work with transit systems throughout the country. In Atlanta, we're doing a lot of work right now, thinking about their extensions, thinking about improvements to their bus system and the kind of last mile connectivity to their transit systems, as well as the newest contract we're undertaking with them is to explore the feasibility of introducing kind of a streetcar or light rail system onto the Beltline, which encircles the city of Atlanta. In Washington, D.C., you've probably heard how Amazon is doing, their second headquarters here in Crystal City, just right outside Washington, D.C. And what you see here is a concept that we worked with Crystal City, which is kind of on the left side of the screen. And you got the George Washington Parkway in the center, and off to the right is Reagan National Airport, the airport for Washington, D.C. And this is a pedestrian bridge, really creating more of a pedestrian experience that connects Crystal City so that you could walk right into Reagan Airport. It's not a very, accessible by walking airport now. So we're helping them think that through, and we're just starting to undertake the environmental impact statements and the preliminary engineering for this. Another really kind of cool project we've done. This is at Northeastern University up in Boston. And we've worked on their campus for years. The Science Center you see in the background, that really kind of cool conical building. But recently, it was helping them think of how could you put in a pedestrian bridge that one was kind of aesthetically pleasing, connected the neighborhoods, connected parts of their campus. And right underneath of it is the Northeast Corridor with Amtrak running, the MBTA's commuter rail system, as well as a portion of the MBTA's Orange Line subway. And to do this in an overnight fashion, be able to keep rail activity, during all the peak periods moving, it was a pretty exciting construction staging project that we could do. So again, we get to work on some really amazing projects. Yes, it's incredible technical aspects, but more importantly for us, it's really thinking about how do you make a community better? How do you really improve mobility, enhance and create communities, and serve as a steward for the environment as you do these things? So, at VHB, we kind of a group of engineers, planners, scientists, designers, who work in this industry and really are constantly thinking about bringing improvements to communities, to cities, to our nation, little by little, helping to make this world a better place and working on game-changing projects as we do it. Now, there is no shortage of challenges right now for this industry. And if you caught any of President Biden's speech last night, he was talking about the importance of infrastructure, expanding the definition of infrastructure, and also kind of using infrastructure to kind of move us to a more sustainable, resilient, and equitable future. That's what we get to do every day. And we're one of the kind of leading firms in the nation that do that and really integrate that into all we do. So let me just kind of give you now some background. That's kind of how we think, the types of projects that we do. We've been around since 1979, based out of Boston, 1,600 professionals, engineers, scientists, planners, designers, technologists, working out of 31 offices up and down the East Coast. Most of the major cities and then kind of areas in those areas just outside the major metropolitan areas that are growing and are very kind of dynamic right now. Again, there's always, people are curious about statistics. We're the 55th largest engineering firm in the country. Some firms do engineering and construction. So when you get to pure design firms, we're at number 46. But the thing I think I'm most proud of is, one, the incredible colleagues I get to work with, and also, that our colleagues, a number of these surveys throughout the industry in different cities, VHB's voted a best place to work or an employer of the year. And I think it's because of that kind of totality of approach that we take into not just solving technical problems, but how do we work as a collaborative group of professionals that get to know each other, get to know how to work together, and then kind of bring these ideas forward into our projects. So we do work kind of for 6 groups of clients: transportation agencies, transportation, transit, airports. We do work in the real estate industry, and a lot of the development activity, not just in downtowns, but even in communities outside of the downtown who are constantly evolving. We do work for institutions, colleges, universities, hospitals. We do a lot of federal government. I wouldn't say a lot. We do a fair amount of federal government work, for the National Park Service, which is just a phenomenal client to work for and kind of brings really amazing projects. We work for Fish and Wildlife. We do a lot of work for the United States Department of Transportation. And we do a lot of work for state and local governments, kind of cities, towns, counties. And we bring these to these clients, the technical areas of transportation planning, land development, planning and urban design, environmental sciences, and applied technology. And our work, we do about half. It's like 50-50. Sometimes it's 60-40, sometimes it's 40-60 for public sector clients and half for private sector clients, which gives us a diverse array of experience. One, to help us navigate ups and downs in the economy, but it also lets us understand where both the private sector and the public sector are coming from, and to be the ones that can convene these to come together to think about solutions for our communities. So that's a real glimpse of VHB. We're thrilled to have you here tonight. And I'm going to turn it back over to Will, who's going to introduce Kerry to tell you a little bit more about our culture, which to us really differentiates us.
Well, Mike, I want to say thank you for taking the time out. As I know you're leading a company. I saw 1,600 people. That's pretty significant. So, but let me ask you one question. What is it
Sure.
that you like? What is it that you like most about leading and working there at VHB?
It's the people. Everybody kind of brings this kind of zeal and passion. And when you work with people who love what they do and have a passion, and they all kind of bring different technical areas of expertise, and you sit down at a table and you're not debating over who wins a point. You're talking about how do we collectively come up with the best idea. That makes it a lot of fun. I mean, my technical area that I come from is kind of in the transit field. And at VHB, I brought kind of technical expertise, but when I came to VHB, I started to work with people who understood, development patterns and, people who had great structural expertise to kind of think of how do you put these things together, and urban planners who help think, all right, how do you weave together that transit with the improvement of a neighborhood and access to different parts of your town. And to me, that was a game changer. I had worked in a few companies that had very technical backgrounds. But when you could bring that together with passionate people, it just made everything a lot more fun to work on. And what you developed and designed, it was just more impactful for people. And that's in a consulting engineer role, which is what we do. The clients I were talking about, they come to us with ideas, and then we figure out how you implement them and bring them to design, and then hand them off to construction companies.
Excellent. So, Mike, once again, thank you. I think it speaks volumes to your efforts, not only to get the job done for your clients, but also to bring in amazing talent and diverse talent by you taking your time out to share your experiences with us and your knowledge and background in the field. So thank you.
Right now, more than ever, we are going strong. We've navigated a really tough time through COVID, but kind of stayed stable. And we are looking for intelligent, passionate people that bring a broad array of experiences, perspectives to strengthen our team and continue to help fuel us growing. I mean, this is a great opportunity, and I'm excited to be here tonight.
Excellent, thanks. So Kerry, if you're ready, I'd like to go ahead and transition into a conversation around company culture there at VHB. So we have Kerry Coker, who is the Chief People Person, or Chief People Officer at VHB. So Kerry, if you're ready.
I will, and thank you so much. Thanks for your partnership. And, I just want to echo what Mike said. It's such a joy to be here with you today. And thank you everyone who's joining us for connecting with us. We're so excited to be doing this. So as Will said, I'm Kerry, and I've been with VHB for 24 years. And I often follow Mike, and he's a hard act to follow, let me tell you. And by the way, he's been at VHB for 23 years, and I'm fortunate enough to call him a partner and friend at VHB. And just quickly, a little bit about me, which I think is pertinent to our culture, is I am fortunate enough I started out as an entry-level HR generalist at VHB, and I'm really fortunate to have grown my career at VHB and to have worked with great people and partners that helped me along the way. And, Mike got to talk to you about the really cool, unique, innovative projects that we get to work on. And I'm excited to talk to you a little bit about our culture, and hopefully to try and give you a sense of what it's like to work at VHB, what it feels like. And even after 24 years at VHB, I still have a hard time of accurately describing our amazing culture. And because it's more, for me, it's, if you think about workplace culture, it's the personality or the character of your company, right? And it's the sum of many things. It's, your values, your philosophy, it's how you operate, how you interact with one another. And for me, it's really that sense of belonging and connection. And so I hope that I can try and describe that to you. And I'm going to do that by talking to you a little bit about some of the foundations of our culture. I'm going to share a few ways that our people interact with one another and support each other. And then I'm going to highlight some of the flexibility and some of the benefits at VHB, from working at VHB. And what I think is really cool about this setup is that later on, when we invite the panelists in, you're going to get to hear their experiences, which about our culture, which I think is really unique. So first off is our generational company. And what does that mean? At VHB, we call ourselves the generational company, and this is our philosophy, right? And what does this mean? It means that we're focused on passing along a really healthy, growing, vibrant company so that our next generation, that we leave it in better shape than we found it, so that it's a sustaining organization. And that causes us each to act like a steward. So we're stewards, and it's our job to continuously improve.
I'm so tired. I'm vaccinated. Woo!
Great. That's great. You're vaccinated. I'm so happy. That's great. I get my second vaccination next week. So, so we're stewards of the company, and we're leaving VHB in great shape for that next generation. A second tenet of our generational company philosophy, and Vanessa, if you can go back, it's really balancing our business and delivering again on some of those outstanding projects that Mike highlighted for you for our clients, but also balancing that with the needs of our people. And that means that we invest in our people. We care about them growing their careers so that they can achieve their potential. And so now you can flip to the next slide, Vanessa. So the other thing I want to highlight is, we've got these 8 core values, and you've heard Mike talk a little bit about some of them, and, the balance and the stewardship from what I just shared with you about generational company. But these are 8 things that we keep top of mind, and you will see them. It's, how we act, and we use our core values and our generational company philosophy, and we use this as a lens for how we interact with one another, and to the point where all of our benefits and all of our policies look at what would a generational company do, and we use these as guideposts for tough decisions and how we show up. And so I'm trying to go quickly because we want to get to these panelists. So the next thing I want to talk to you about is, some of our communities at VHB and the way.
It looks like you got muted there, Carrie.
Yes, I got muted. Will, are you telling me I'm going a little long?
No,
Is that
not at all.
is that the cane? All right. So these are some of our employee resource groups, and these are ways that you'll see a theme here. We like to connect. We encourage connections. We encourage developing great relationships and supporting one another. And each of these employee resources groups, they have a different maybe focus, but they're all based in creating opportunities to support one another, to learn, and to create great friendships and camaraderie across the company. So the first one I want to highlight is VHB Together. And this really came about this past year. And this is sort of our hub for all things engagement. And when we transitioned to mostly remote, I'm coming from my dining room. These are my dishes behind me. We wanted to make sure that we were keeping these great connections open. So our team pulled together this hub. And so we have stretch breaks, and we have meditation, and we, during Christmas and the holidays, we put together like escape rooms and different things. And Cedric, who's one of our panelists, was on my escape room team with me, and he did burpees while I did, and our team, did we win? We came in second, Cedric. He can tell you about that later and his experiences. So it's a really great way to keep us connected all across our footprint. If you lower than that, there's the VHB Ideal, and VHB Ideal, it stands for Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, Alliance. And VHB Ideal came together about 4 years ago. And this is a community that promotes awareness, inclusiveness, openness, and it's really about creating a safe space where our employees can come together, show up for one another, and talk about really challenging issues. And this past year, it was pretty challenging for us. And our Ideal group partnered with Mike and our HR team to do a series of community conversations to check in on our employees. And we can talk a little bit more about that later, or some of the panelists might be able to as well. Some of the things that Ideal has coming up at VHB is Mental Health Awareness Month for May. They're partnering with our wellness team. And we've got Pride Month and Juneteenth. And these are some of the things where we create awareness around. We might have a speaker about it, or there might be a social opportunity, again, to connect. It's about that space. Down in the lower right-hand corner is Jill, and she is one of our emerging professional leaders. And that's one of our resource groups. And that was really created to help connect emerging professionals so that they obviously get to know one another, but it's also to, how we operate at VHB, what are the resources, what are our disciplines, and it's really encouraging professional development so that our emerging professionals can become leaders. It's a great leadership opportunity. Again, another great way to connect. These are all voluntary employee resource groups. And again, the common theme is connection. And then the one that I want to talk about last on this slide is our Vhb Cares. We have purpose-driven employees who care about the communities where we live and work. And actually, I can just talk to you today. We had our VBay. It's our online, it's our philanthropic, where everybody's donating services and products and things like that, and we bid on it, and it raises money for charity. And so that was one of the things that happened today. But it's we're really proud. And Vanessa, if you flip to the next slide, last year we raised together, our employees, and with the VHB match, over $200,000 to give back to charities. So these are, again, great ways for you to connect, and how our employees connect together. And I guess the next few slides, and I'm going to go really quickly because we want to get to the panelists, is just some of the ways that we support that balance and that flexibility. Again, we have, even before the pandemic, we had lots of opportunities for employees to work from home, part-time schedules available, summer hours. If you flip to the next slide, we also try to support our employees with care.com membership. If you have, if you need extra help with childcare or daycare support, or even just, elder care, this is one of the ways that we help support our employees. And then, of course, this past year, we've added Zenovate, which is a mental and physical health resource for our employees that offers counseling sessions, virtual exercise and yoga, guided meditation, and just ways to help people holistically. And VHB Well, it's again a community where we're focused on wellness and keeping our employees healthy. We have lots of fun competitions around step challenges, nutrition, healthy eating, and we also sponsor flu shots and CSA deliveries and just fitness classes. So these are some of the ways that our employees connect and the resources that we have for folks. So my hope is that you got from me and Mike is that our passion and that we really care about our culture, and that that connection and this inclusive environment that we have is just a really unique and special place.
So Carrie, Mike, thank you. Really appreciate you sharing, your experiences, some of the background, some of the cultural, some of the reasons why folks would be interested in working at VHB. We appreciate you taking the time out. So with that, let me transition into introducing our panelists for this evening. So what we're going to do next, I'm going to introduce these panelists so you guys can know who you're going to be speaking with. You guys can engage in the chat once again, but I wanted you to know who you're going to be speaking with, who they are, what their responsibilities are, sort of their path to VHB. Once we get to know, who all of the panelists are, then I'll ask them a few questions so that you can get to know, them, what they do, and the company even a little bit better. Okay, so let me start out by introducing our first panelist. And so for each of the panelists, once I introduce you, feel free to turn your video on and your audio on, and then you can keep it on as we go and transition into the panel. So our first panelist is Vic Desai, who's a project manager working out of Williamsburg, Virginia. So Vic, if you're ready.
Yes, thank you. Welcome everybody. This is Vic Desai. I work out of our Williamsburg, Virginia office. I got graduated from Virginia Tech as a civil engineer and got hired straight out of college. So I've actually been at VHB for almost 16 years as my first job. And when I say that to people, they're usually shocked because most of my friends are in their third or maybe fourth job by now. They don't stick to the first one. So I've been sort of very lucky when it comes to that. As Mike and Carrie mentioned, great people to work with, great projects to work on. My role, I basically work on our National Park Service team. Majority of my projects are for National Park Service, anywhere from, simple water line, sanitary line replacements to literally working in caves at Mammoth Cave. Like my favorite project is improving cave environments inside the cave. So spend hundreds of hours in the cave working on that. And again, welcome everybody. And we're looking forward to having discussions.
Excellent, thanks, Vic. Our next panelist is Eric Tang. Eric is a senior highway safety engineer working out of Washington, D.C. So Eric, if you're ready.
Hi, everyone. Glad to be here to spend a few moments of my time with everyone here. And yeah, like Will said, I'm based out of our Washington, D.C. office, and seeing the chat, it's good to see a number of you who are in this area and are interested in our firm. And I do want to highlight that I do work on highway safety, so trying to make our transportation system safe for all users in an equitable manner. And that goes to the heart with some of the projects that I really enjoy working on, which are road safety plans. Some of them are called Vision Zero. You may have heard of that term. Trying to make sure that everyone can get from A to B safely, no matter what income, where you live, et cetera. So even though Mike mentioned that our footprint's on the East Coast, just like Vic, I do work on federal contracts with the Federal Highway Administration and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. So we do work outside of our footprint. I've been involved with projects in Nebraska and Oregon and California. So don't be hindered by our footprint. We do have exposure outside of the East Coast. So do want to say that I'm very proud that our company is a sponsor for or a patron of the Conference on Advancing Transportation Equity, which is being hosted by the Transportation Research Board, National Academies of Sciences. That'll be this September. So we can definitely expand more about that later. So thanks, everybody.
Excellent. Thanks, Eric. Let me introduce our next panelist, who is Meredith Avery, Director of Natural Science, working out of Watertown, Massachusetts.
Okay, thanks, Will. I can tell you I'm much more excited about hearing your stories than telling you about mine. So I'm looking forward to connecting with folks through the panel questions and in the breakout rooms, but I'll try and give you about a 2-minute breakdown of my 25 years in consulting. I have a biology background, so I went to school for zoology and marine studies. Spent about a year doing research and realized as I was in Jamaica doing research on coral reefs that I hated working in labs. And I can tell you, if you're in Jamaica and you decide you hate what you're doing, you got to really hate it. I really did not like working in labs. I came to consulting almost as a word of mouth. Somebody had told me there was a position open. And, you know, as a biologist, it was a little bit of a leap. And what I found was it gave me a connection between problem solving, applied science, policy of environmental law, and technical engineering side of solutions. And Mike and others have talked about this, that consulting can provide you that really great niche for complex problem solving. And in the environmental realm, that means that you get to get involved in all of the projects that Mike talked about have an environmental component. It may not be the driver of the need of the project, but it's a consideration that we bring to all of our projects to make sure that it's the best outcome, both on the engineering side and the environmental side. And I spent most of my career at a very large consulting firm until about 7 years ago. And it was a firm that, you know, put business first and was technically good. It just was a culture of business. And I thought, well, this is great. I can learn. I can, you know, do what I need to do to make the projects good. But there was no bringing your whole self to that job. It was very much a culture of business. And I came over to VHB, partly because we kept losing work to VHB and it was bothering me. And I thought I had to go and figure out what they were all about. VHB was, you know, obviously technically really, really good. But what I found when I got into the company is that the company culture, as Carrie said, of being about people just as much about the business, is a tremendous asset. I mean, you can bring much more of your whole self to the job. And because you do that, you're able to be honest and open and question, and it's a safe place to just talk about problem solving and throw out ideas. And that feeds itself, right? You have a place where you can be open and honest, and you can be kind of a person first focused company. Your people show up and they really want to engage. So it's been a tremendous experience for me to work at this company. I think it's a pretty unique and great place to work, as you've heard from a lot of other folks. And I'm looking forward to talking to you guys more and answering some of your questions.
Thank you, Meredith. So let me introduce our next speaker, panelist, who is Cedric Gaines, who is a software architect. And also, I understand he's a proud Rattler from FAMU, Florida A&M University, one of our HBCUs. So Cedric,
Yes.
is ready.
Most definitely, FAMU. My name is Cedric Gaines. I am a software architect here at VHB in Orlando office. A little about myself. As Will said, I started my educational career at Florida A&M, finished up at Troy. And I've been blessed to be able to program most of my career. Started out with the state, designing and building Microsoft SharePoint solutions. I worked with the military, building military solutions and VR and things like that. Did a good long stint with hospitals, building medical software, EMR software. And then I wanted to kind of get away, not necessarily from application programming, but I wanted to kind of get more towards AI, machine learning, and big data. And that's how I ended up here at VHB, where I get to do just that. We work with a lot of different programs, a lot of different projects. Kind of like what Meredith say, every day I come to work is different. And that's kind of what I wanted. I didn't want to be in a place where it was like, day in, day out, clock in. I do the same kind of thing every day, then clock out. I wanted to be at a place where I was able to innovate and be who I am. I am a major software geek. That's what I've been doing. I've been coding since I was in elementary school. My father was a software engineer for the military. I grew up in, technology. So it was just kind of in me to do this. And VHB allows me an outlet to kind of, be who I am. And I get to work with these awesome people every day. It's not like you're working with just coworkers. In a sense, it becomes almost like family to a lot of sense. The people that I work with, it's not like I just work with them, from 9 to 5 and then I don't talk to them till the next morning. Some of these people I'm talking to on the phone, we're watching like, Marvel, all the Marvel stuff that's on TV, and we're on the phone talking and geeking out about that. So is it a very close-knit company? That's something that I love. I work better in those kind of scenarios and those kind of environments. So yeah, I love it here at VHB. I love to have your questions, comments, things of that nature. So if you're interested in software engineering and technology as a whole, then we can definitely talk one-on-one breakout room. So thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Cedric. And let me introduce our next panelist, Sherry Dawson, who's a transportation planner working out of Washington, D.C. So Sherry, if you're ready.
Sure. Thanks, Will. So my name is Sherry Dawson. I am a transportation planner. I just transferred to the DC office as of today. I was based in our Charlotte office. So I guess I'll talk about that transition a little later, but I am one of the newer faces here at VHB, so I can probably connect with a lot of you a lot better than our senior staff that's on here. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I started as a political science and economics major and soon realized that law was going to make me miserable and eventually transitioned into this transportation planning field. So I mainly focus on public transit projects, but I also develop public and community stakeholder engagement strategies. So I'll talk a little bit about that later. Can't wait to be a resource to you all. And yeah, thanks, Will.
Excellent, excellent. So to all of our panelists, you can go ahead and turn your video on, and I like us to focus on some conversations with our panelists. So we'll talk a little bit more about some cultural questions, just some background questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go round robin in the order that I introduced each of you, and I'm just going to ask a question or two for us to kind of dive a little bit deeper. Okay, so Vic, first question is for you. I noticed that you mentioned that you've been at VHB for about 16 years. What is it about VHB that keeps employees there for so long?
Sure. Let's see. Where do I start? Again, so as Will mentioned, I've been here almost 16 years straight out of college. And really, I've always said the three things that keep me at VHB. One, the projects that you work on. So I've been lucky enough to work on nothing but National Park Service and then, state projects. So every sort of site visit I take is to a national park. So I feel like I'm on vacation and getting paid for it for the most of those. So that's always great. And then, the people you work with, as Mike mentioned, all sort of out of the 1,600 people, every time I talk to somebody new, I learn something new about them every day. And even sort of my boss, our office manager, their doors are always open. And, everybody encourages everybody else to learn. Sort of, they offer, go take classes if you need to, if you want to learn something in particular. And it doesn't even have to be exactly about a project you're working on. If they feel like it'll help you professionally, they'll sort of move on. And then again, just opportunities moving forward in your employment as well. I started as a, junior project engineer doing sort of the just typical calculations like everybody does when they get out of college. And now my role has really moved on to, technically a project manager, but I've given myself a sort of role of project coordinator. And I really just make sure everybody on my team has the information they need and coordinate with the clients and agencies to sort of keep things moving. So I've loved it. 16 years and counting. There's people in our office that have been here 25, 30 years. So looking forward to doing that.
Excellent. Thank you, Vic. So Eric, the next question is for you. And I noticed you have a very interesting and important role as a highway safety engineer. So what was your path to your current career? And, was it like a passion of yours? What's the story behind it?
Sure. No, thanks for the question, Will. Honestly, safety really wasn't, a core part of what I was looking to going into industry. When I was little, I grew up in a multi-generational household, and seeing my grandparents taking transit because they didn't drive, my parents did, and going everywhere with them during summer holidays. I wish that seemed like that was ages ago. Taking transit around the city of Toronto. I grew up in Canada, and knowing that that's what they were dependent on, and I think that's definitely was an inspiration to me, to understanding that not everyone can drive, and understanding that there's that priority to get people who can't, who don't have access to transportation, giving them that access to get to their friends, to shopping, etc. So ultimately, after going through school and then and going through college, it's like, wait, I can really focus more on transportation. I did civil engineering as an undergrad, and ultimately I did that for grad school as well. But then I also added planning to it. So I call myself a plan engineer, background in both engineering and planning. And ultimately, at my prior job, that's when I began to focus on safety a little bit more. And I've been with VHB for 5 years, 17 years in the industry as a whole. And safety has increased in stature across the country. I think ultimately we all want to have a safe transportation system, but I think the agencies across the country have really placed a much stronger emphasis on making our transportation system safe for all users. And we've seen it in remarks in recent years, increasing need for transportation equity. The new administration is definitely showing a strong commitment to that, and I'm happy to be part of the solution. And safety, safety is one element. I mean, there's planning, there's technology, everything, you name it. It's all interconnected. So I'm really proud that I'm trying to solve the safety portion of the equation.
Excellent. So thank you, Eric. Let me pose this next question to Meredith. So Meredith, a lot of companies are focusing more and more on DE&I efforts in the workplace. Can you speak to DE&I changes you are seeing happening at VHB and within the industry, and why this is important to VHB?
Sure, I can try. I mean, across the industry, I think we're seeing a lot, right? We're seeing a lot in a lot of different spaces, and I almost feel like it's the opposite of a focus. It's a broadening. I think before we were focused on diversity, maybe in a bit of a passive way. And part of why I feel so kind of interested in this is I feel like I was right there, and I'm sort of doing the learning along with the industry, right? This broadening and this expansion of understanding of where we need to go, and the far way we need to go, and how far we need to go to get there. And I think the industry is getting there. I think I like seeing what we're seeing, that it's a topic of conversation. It's a focus of open conversations. And within VHB, I think the thing I'm the most proud of in our evolution over the past year in particular, if not the past couple of years, is there's two things really. There's an openness of conversation that happens at VHB that I think is really, really unique. Sometimes people struggle to express themselves. Sometimes people come to issues from different angles, and it can create that communication blockade. The leaders at VHB have intentionally created spaces to allow the staff to engage with each other on these topics with with no barriers, right? You can come in, you can express yourself. There's no judgment. There's a lot of learning. There's a lot of, fear that goes away. I think they've done a great job. We've really tried hard at VHB to make those conversations open. But the other thing that I think was really remarkable in the past year is accountability. And when you're talking about diversity or underrepresentation of staff or diversity in the work that we do, it's really easy to be forward-looking and saying, here's what we need to do now. VHB took a hard look and still does take a hard look at what we may have not done well in the past, right? This humility to be able to say, I think maybe we didn't get it right. I think we need to go back and do some accounting and some audits on how we used to behave and make sure that we're not going to keep it going, right? And that focus, that internal focus of like, how can we do it better, broadens the conversation moving forward. And I think it helps in both spaces of how we govern ourselves as a company and how we behave as a company in all of our practices. But as you've heard, we engage in the world with municipalities and with sustainability and with talking to communities about what they need. There are huge DEI issues in the communities that we work with. So it's this both inward and outward looking focus that's changing throughout the company and changing throughout the industry. It's promising and exciting and hopeful, but there's a long way to go yet. So
I think that's admirable. I'm always excited to hear about companies that take a real look at themselves and then create ways to expand on DE&I. So I appreciate that response. So let me shoot another question to one of our panelists. So Cedric, if you're ready for this next question. I understand as a FAMU grad, work-life balance is important to you. Can you describe how VHB fosters an environment that makes this possible?
Yeah, most definitely. One of the most important things to me, just in my lifetime is, on top of the things that I do professionally, as a software architect and things like that, is I think that my greatest job here is to be an awesome father, an awesome husband to my wife and kids, point blank. I think that's, what I'm here for. That's my greatest gift that I can do. And to find a company that agrees with that and actually they don't just write it down and say, okay, this is on our mission statement, but they actually practice it where family is important. That was one of the biggest things for me, to be able to come to work every day, put 110% in, and be able to go home and spend that quality time with my family and stuff. Because I worked for engineering firms, and I worked for other companies where, as a software engineer, if you're up, you're coding. That's what they do. If you're up, you're coding.
Right.
And and I'm not one to shy away from hard work. I worked hard my whole life, but I don't want to give my kids and my wife everything, pass away, and then my kids can only remember me as like, he gave us a good life, but I don't remember anything about it.
Right.
So I wanted that to be, I want to be a role model professionally and a role model as a husband and a father to my children. VHB allows me to give me that ability to do that. I don't have somebody over my head like, are you up? You're coding. No, they treasure that, I bring myself to work and I put 100% in, and they understand that at the end of the day, you got a family that you have to take care of, provide for, and VHB gives me that opportunity and ability to do that. So yeah, you don't win best place to work, but 1,400+ people all agreeing if you're not practicing what you preach. So right. I'll just kind of say that, and yeah, I agree with 100% what they're doing, and yeah, this is a great place to work, and they do foster that here.
Excellent, thank you, Cedric. So let me pose a question to Sherry. So Sherry, I understand you're a transportation planner. So is your work in transportation planning what you envisioned when you were in school? And how is it different? And what do you find like rewarding about your role?
So what I envisioned is absolutely not what I'm doing right now, or the journey that I took to get where I am. So if someone were to ask me what I thought I'd be doing right out of grad school, I would say, oh, I'd be working for a public transit agency doing bus service planning and scheduling. But I did the complete opposite. I started working for a traffic engineering firm who wanted to put more lanes on the road. So I'm like, I had to think about it because every step you take, it has a purpose. So although I wasn't doing the exact type of planning that I went to school for, every step in my career, it's been beneficial. So I left that traffic engineering firm with connections that afforded me the opportunity to get into rail service planning. So that stint didn't last very long, but the experience I gained there gave me what I needed to move on to the next career opportunity. So what I've learned and what I left with was knowledge that I was able to build on over the years. So so I would say, like, although my journey's been exactly that, a journey and not what I envisioned, I learned and gained experience in so many areas of this broad transportation field instead of just becoming an expert in what I thought I really wanted to do, which was transit planning. So I guess something I would say is don't burn any bridges, because I actually work for my former boss at my first job. So even though it wasn't ideal, and had I burned that bridge, I wouldn't have the opportunity to actually work on transit projects right now. So,
Super cool. No,
so
I think that's
definitely rewarding. And just take every opportunity, even if you don't think it's the right fit or that you're qualified, because you never know where that opportunity will take you in your career.
excellent. So looks like we've got about 12 minutes left. So I think it's enough time for us to get a few more questions in. So for all the candidates that are tuned in, and I know a lot of you guys might have questions, so definitely if you have questions, we're going to have breakout sessions, so you can actually go into the breakout sessions and ask those questions to the different team members that are on the panel, and you can actually turn on your audio and video and have some more intimate conversations. But let me circle back to Vic with another question. So like I said, we've got about 10 or 11 minutes. So I'm going to try to touch everybody once more. So let's keep an eye on time. But Vic, what is it like for you to see communities develop through the work that you and your team do? What's that like?
So again, as I mentioned, 100% of my projects are for public sector. So, I don't work on anybody's house that they're going to sort of, live in. So everything I do is sort of with the mind of, okay, how am I going to enjoy it? So again, National Park Service, I keep coming back to that. But so everything I sort of work on, and over the years I've developed hey, I would have never thought about that. But then when you go there with your family, you're like, maybe I need to look at this for our next project, kind of thing. I usually get yelled at by my sister-in-law for talking about like that during vacations, but it's a different story. But again, everything that we work on, we keep that in mind. And it's actually I'm spending our own taxpayers' money because it's a federal job, right? So that's another thing you just in the back of your mind keep in mind that, okay, I can design this sort of Cadillac, but is it absolutely necessary here? How can we expand it so everybody can use it? And then, just accessibility is such a big sort of component in everything we do here of just not just when I first thought of accessibility, I would only think of, slopes. Like, hey, can this guy in wheelchair get up this slope or not? Meet regulations and you're fine. But accessibility is sort of everywhere. Like, for example, we just put in a bridge at Mammoth Cave National Park over a creek, and it's a 125-foot long bridge. So the truss is really tall, but we, for a middle section, good sort of 10, 12 feet on both sides of the rail, we put in sort of clear through panels instead of the trusses, so that a younger child or somebody in a wheelchair can really look out and actually get the same view as somebody that is walking and can look over the bridge for. So I don't know if that really answered your question or not, but it's in everything we do, kind of looking out for the community.
No, I think that's excellent, and thanks for that answer, Vic. So next one is for Eric. So Eric, do you feel that you have the opportunities for career growth at VHB? And if so, what are they?
Yeah, that's a great question, Will. first off, I do want to apologize to Vic for driving right by Mammoth Caves a couple of years ago on a separate project and not stopping to see your work. So I apologize. But you know, it's the firm. Okay, you know, Mike shared with you the statistics. You know, top 50, top 40. You know, terms of engineering firms of size, right? But it's not about the numbers, all right? I mean, we're not a 10,000, 30,000 person company. You know, we're 1,600, but that's still large enough. You know, we cover so much, so many parts of the industry, and there's so much opportunity for you to learn. And there's always an opportunity, lots of open doors. People are willing to listen. You've heard from so many of us already today. Everyone's very collaborative, willing to listen to what your career interests are. And there are many opportunities to mold your career towards your interests. And we have these functional areas, and you know, the breakout sessions, you'll get to see some of our functional areas, and you get to learn a little bit more from each. And by speaking with these thought leaders, you really get a sense of what the state of the practice is. And I think we have opportunity all the time to learn from these thought leaders and really help to shape the latest thinking professionally for ourselves. And as a result, I mean, for myself, I've been able to dive into other projects outside of my own region of Washington, D.C., been able to expand my expertise, helping our offices in New England and other parts of the Mid-Atlantic, New York State, showing the lessons I've learned elsewhere and showing it to other parts of our corporate footprint. So I think the opportunities are endless, and you know, I'm definitely proud to be here to experience that.
Excellent. Thanks, Eric. So let me throw a question at Meredith. So I know your official role is Director of Natural Science, but I also see you're a principal and board member at VHB. Can you explain a little bit more about what these roles entail?
Sure. Yeah. So the company is an employee-owned company, and we invest in our company and sort of help guide it towards the next generation. As you've heard, it's a really important part of how we view our work. And my role as a principal, and I think principals within the company are people who have sort of become stockholders in the company, right? We're owners of the company. But you know, beyond that, what it really means to me is that I'm committed in a way to more than just doing my project work. I'm committed in a way to the company that is more than just helping my team members achieve, right? It's looking out for the best interests of the company so that we can leave it in a better place for the next generation. It's deep mentoring, it's listening, it's a kind of a bigger commitment to making sure that the company is healthy and that the people who are working there are achieving the best that they can, right? So they can get to the best place they want to be with their own career. And the board, you know, this is a new thing. I just got on the board. I've had one board meeting. It's still kind of landing with me that I'm on the board.
Nice.
And if there's any, you know, indication that finding the right company and the right fit helps you achieve things you didn't think you could achieve, I'm it. Like, that's it. You know, we've got a biologist sitting on the board. And it's, you know, the board is about governance of the company, right? It's about big picture thinking. It's about making sure that we're driving good decision making. And I'm hoping that, you know, having a seat there and having my peers elect me to that seat means that we are focused on, you know, environmental outcomes really from the top, right? We're focused on lifting people up from the very, very top. And I think it's important, you know, for visibility. And I hate that term. I feel like it's almost become a catchphrase, but visibly having women in this role, in this business, in a position of leadership. I didn't have that. Like, I did not have a single woman who was in a position of leadership when I was coming up through engineering firms. And we use visibility a lot as a term. And I think it matters so much. I did not know it was possible. And I think, you know, the company committing to it and engaging with women at every level of the company really paves a good path for the people who are coming up behind us. I mean, I hope it does. I hope I can provide that for them, because I certainly needed it, and I wish I'd had it when I was younger.
Excellent. So, and I want to thank everyone from the VHB team that's engaging in the chat. So I see some good engagement there. And we're getting ready to go into breakout sessions, so you'll have a chance to engage more. But I want to get a last question in to Cedric and Sherry before we go into the breakout. So Cedric, we got something else in common besides our HBCU connection. I hear that you created a YouTube channel, and you talk about technology from a software engineer's point of view, and you look to serve as a role model for minorities. Can you talk a little bit more about that and why that's important to you?
Yeah, kind of like what Meredith kind of alluding to a little bit, representation matters. And, you know, I love technology. This is my thing. This is what I do. I am a tech geek. But when I looked at Facebook and a lot of the other tech reviewers and so forth, you don't see a lot of tech reviewers that look like me. And you definitely don't see them talking in depth about technology. You'll see them talk about, you know, his latest iPhone. And, you know, that's great and everything, but I wanted a place where, you know, I can kind of show myself that, hey, I've reached this level of engineering and science and so forth. And to those other people that might look like me, they say, you know, they'll have these stereotypes of what does a software architect looks like. Mm-hmm. It might not look like me, but I can serve as a representation of, yes, you can be an engineer, you can be a mathematician, you can do all these cool things that I do, and your background doesn't matter as long as you have the drive and perseverance. So yeah, I created this YouTube channel to talk about that. So definitely go out there and check it out. It's on Ceddy Knows Tech, CEDDY Knows Tech. Subscribe, most definitely. But you know, I talk about everything. I talk about gaming. I talk about products. You know, I'm talking about not new Apple stuff with the M1 chips and all that. But I kind of get in depth about coding and engineering and stuff like that, because I've been blessed to be able to touch all these areas and personally be able to help innovate and leave my my stamp there of what I've done and things I've worked on. So if I can kind of show that to the world, and maybe some upcoming kid or young adult sees that, and like, wow, you know, he did it, I can do it too. And we have similar backgrounds. So that's my whole purpose in doing that. It's not about the subscription numbers. It's a place where I can vent and just geek out. And if anybody's willing to listen, you can geek out with me. So, you know, it's kind of like that. But yeah, most definitely check me out.
Love it. So yeah, like I said, that's something we have in common, and we do it for the same reason. So I'll definitely check out your channel, and I encourage everybody else to do the same. Be careful though, you might end up on the HR recruitment team with the channel. Hey, but let me give Sherry the last word before we jump into the breakout room. So Sherry, I understand that you first started at VHB's Charlotte office. Now you work out of the DC office. Can you talk a little bit more about the transition, what that was like, and how VHB offered you that flexibility to change locations?
Sure. So I actually started in our Raleigh office. So when I accepted the position at VHB, I was working and living in Raleigh at the time. So VHB was really flexible and quite accommodating in allowing me to actually work in Raleigh until my lease was over. So I was able to meet and work with the Raleigh staff on a variety of projects, and I was able to continue to do so once I actually moved to Charlotte. So our Charlotte office is relatively new, so we don't have many projects, but there are projects currently coming down the pipeline. So in the interim, I was offered to continue to work on Raleigh projects and provide assistance until one day I received an email from my former boss that I mentioned earlier, who now works in DC. So he offered me a small task here and there to work on transit projects, which is what I thought I was ready for 5 years ago when I got out of school. So the little task turned into me actually working on these projects about 90% of the time. So I was working with not only my former supervisor, but I also got connected with other project managers and built relationships that way. So eventually a door opened up, and with me being familiar with the project managers there and other team members, it kind of made sense, and it was pretty much a smooth transition. So yeah, VHB is actually pretty open, and with COVID, I was actually living in DC instead of Charlotte. So it just kind of made sense. And it was pretty smooth. And I just thank VHB for giving me that opportunity to work wherever and still be, yeah.
Perfect. No, I think that speaks highly of VHB and their flexibility, with their team members. So thank you all to our panelists. Thank you all for sharing your experiences, and also thank you for participating in this next segment of our event this evening, which will be the breakout session. So for those breakout sessions, if you want, Vanessa, if you want to go ahead and bring the breakout session list up. We're actually going to have breakout sessions. So each of the panelists will be in a different breakout session. So you guys can definitely take advantage of going into the breakout sessions through Zoom. So there's actually an option at the bottom of Zoom for the breakout rooms. But you can actually go into the breakout rooms with each of the members of the team. And so let me break down what each of those breakout sessions will be. And then Matt, if we're ready for those breakout sessions, I know the candidates will be able to go into those breakout rooms. So I click on the breakout rooms at the bottom, and I think once those are ready, you guys will be able to jump in. But in that first breakout room will be under the topic of land development, and Vic Desai will be in there, as well as Esme Carrero from Human Resources, and she's a Human Resource Coordinator. In the transportation breakout room, we'll have Eric Tang, who's a Senior Highway Safety Engineer, once again, along with Elizabeth Bennett, who's the DE&I and Compliance Manager. In the third breakout room, the topic of discussion will be environmental. So if you have a background in environmental engineering, that kind of thing, Meredith Avery will be in that breakout room, who's a Director of Natural Science, as well as Jimmy Gonzalez, who's a Learning and Development Manager. And then the applied technology, we'll have Cedric Gaines in that breakout room, who's a software architect, as well as Vanessa Ryder, who's a communications director at VHB. And then the fourth breakout room will be planning. And so we'll have Sherry Dawson in that room. So if you have questions for Sherry, you can jump into the planning breakout room. And also along with Sherry will be Dave Perez, who's a senior recruiter. And then for those of you that either cannot get into a breakout room just based on technology issues, you can hang around in this main session, and we'll have Carrie Coker, who's a chief people officer, as well as Tanya Goring, who's the HR director. And we'll have a discussion here, and we'll use this as a breakout room to discuss culture and sort of a catch-all for any questions that you might have. So I highly encourage you to take advantage of the breakout rooms. Let's see if we're ready to get into the breakout rooms.
Ready when you are, Will.
Okay, so I would encourage everyone to go ahead and take advantage. There should be a link at the bottom of Zoom for the breakout rooms that you can click on and then jump into those breakout rooms.
All right, and we're going for 15 minutes, correct, Will?
Correct. So we've got 15 minutes of the breakout rooms. Those conversations will not be recorded, but the main room will be.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open these up. As Will said, just look for the option to join a room and stay put right here if you want the culture room. And with that, I'll go ahead and open up all the rooms. Have a great discussion, everyone.
Thanks, Matt. And then, like I said, for the candidates that are jumping off into the breakout rooms, if you're prepared, you can turn on your audio and video. We ask that you're in a quiet location so that your audio might not be disrupted, and as well as your video. If you're not prepared for video, you do not have to turn it on. So everyone, make sure to take advantage. Have some conversations, ask questions to the team members, and those of you that want to hang out with Tonya, myself, as well as Carrie, you guys can hang around in this main session. So please enjoy and take advantage. We'll be back in
a couple people asking how to get in. If something didn't pop up on your screen, look at the bottom of your Zoom window where there's the ribbon with some icons. You should see one that says Breakout Rooms. Go ahead and click on that, and you'll be able to choose the room you'd like to enter.
I believe some of us are on our phones, so it's kind of difficult to see that link.
Okay, Sanjay, if you let me know which room you'd like to attend, I can just manually send you.
I wanted to go to the transportation planning room, but I believe there's two of them. One for planning, one for transportation.
Mm-hmm. So which one would you like to go to?
Let's say transportation.
All right, I'll send you now.
All right, thank you.
Enjoy, man.
Could you put me with room 4, tech?
Sure.
Thank you, Dixon.
Hi, can you also put me in the tech room?
Sure.
Hello, could you also put me in the transportation room?
Okay.
Thank you.
This is interesting. See the breakdown of folks.
Yeah, so Matt, Teresa S says that she can't activate her camera because it says that the host has stopped it.
I can turn that back on.
That would be my fault.
Hello,
So,
Matt.
right, Teresa, you should be good to go now.
Hello, Matt. I'm Moody. Could you please put me
Thank
into the room number 1?
Sure.
Hi, Teresa.
Hi. I'm trying to get to the planning. I'm sorry, you guys.
No problem.
Okay, Teresa.
Matt can help you if you need.
Matt is the man.
I'm a man.
Thank you, Matt.
All right, Carrie, Tanya. If anyone else has a request to go for a room, just please send a message in the chat and I can send you. That way we don't use up any more of the culture discussion time.
Matt, I think there's a couple in the chat for you right there too.
Excellent.
So excellent.
Hey, Carrie.
Hey guys, thank you so much for joining us. And I just want to, for everybody who is with us in our room, you guys know Tanya Goring, but I also want to introduce you to Julie Johnson. Julie is our vice president of HR, and she and Tanya are both, again, on our people culture team. So she can also answer some of those HR related questions. And that chat was great. And Julie and Tanya, you did a great job of manning that chat. So thanks for answering a lot of those questions. You guys were quick too. You were like, oh,
that was awesome.
Yeah.
That was fun.
So what questions do we have, or can we help with?
Hi, this is Felicia Hatton. Can you hear me?
Hi, Felicia. It's nice to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Well, I don't have my camera on. I'm not ready for that.
But your picture is beautiful. I love your necklace and your photo. And I loved your question in the chat. And let me just say, I'm kind of in that age group. So I'm just saying. So, and Julie did a beautiful job of answering that. So I've been at VHB for 24 years. We have lots of people. We have several people who've been with VHB for 30, 40 years. So one of the things that you'll find at VHB is our turnover is really low. And, people, when they come, they stick with us and they grow their career. So we see that as an opportunity for people to be, young folks to be mentors for folks who've been in the industry, for a long time, and vice versa. So, that's everybody is welcome, and we have lots of folks in that demographic. So,
well, that's good to hear, because I served on the board of directors, the Juanita C. Grant Foundation, for a couple of years, and one of the focuses was on intergenerational work environments. And I won't go through my whole entire career, but it's varied, and I've done a lot in my career. So I understand where Sherry is very well, but one of the focuses is intergenerational, and it's really important, as you all have alluded to, that we learn from each other. As a matter of fact, I volunteer for DECA every year for the last 9 years.
That's such a great organization. My dad used to do that. Yeah.
It's a great organization. And I just volunteered last week to work with and give students direction on their hospitality in tourism industry, because I'm also in that industry. And I learned so much from them, but I also gave constructive feedback to them. So it's really important to me to find an organization that really embraces diversity at every level.
We agree. We agree. And, I love what you just said about giving constructive feedback. That's one of our focuses. And, you probably heard it like when you heard Meredith or Vic or some of our other panelists talk about, we have this very open environment, and we encourage people to show up as they are and to share. We're all learning from each other. We want to hear everybody's perspectives. That's how we get better. One of those philosophies is continuously improving, right? And that's a shared responsibility. It's your responsibility to continuously improve, to improve yourself, to grow your career, but it's also your responsibility to pull other people along with you and share your knowledge, transfer that knowledge, and help them grow their careers, because we can only be better when we're doing that together. So I love that you have that focus, Felicia, and you would certainly fit right in at VHB.
Well, I want to fit in with you. I helped start an organization. There are leadership programs across the country, and I helped form and shape and ran Leadership Greater Washington from inception to the first 9 years. And that's where the issues of diversity and inclusion first was introduced to the leaders in the DC area. So I have no hesitation about talking about it. Because it's really important for us to get along if we're going to work together.
Great.
So, great.
Yeah. I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Tanya,
Great. And other questions for us, guys? What we can talk? We're so excited that you're all joining us. Is there specific questions someone has their hand up. Can you introduce yourself? Hi.
Samaya. How are you?
Samaya, that's a beautiful name, Samaya. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So my whole question is, I am trying to transition. I'm a recruiter for a healthcare company right now, but my company really kind of pushed me in the direction of wanting to get into diversity and inclusion, just because we don't have a lot of diversity at my company, and we don't have those tough conversations that need to be had. It kind of pushed me into a direction to where I had to lead those conversations. And now that those conversations are kind of getting swept under the rug again, it's pushing me into a direction to where I want to be on a team that is doing that for our company. And so when you guys said that you guys talk about Black Lives Matter and you guys have different initiatives that you foster, and you guys have an inclusive community, I wanted to know if you guys were hiring in the HR department, and what would be your advice to
Julie? Oh, yeah. Julie, you want to handle this
Samaya,
one? You're a recruiter? Yay!
I know. I love that question, Samaya. We're growing our recruiting team right now, actually. So we have openings available. So please, you can connect with me. You can connect with Tanya, either of us, both of us. I might have actually already sent you an invitation to connect, but let's connect and we can share those job openings with you and talk to you about that. We would love to.
Okay, great. I'm about to do that right now.
Awesome. Yay.
We're so excited. Yay. As soon as you said recruiter, I was like, oh my God, And
just hearing what the company is doing for the community and the community, POC, and just Black people as a whole, just because I'm in the process of just interviewing. And so I'm paying attention to different HR practices. People are asking, it was cool to know that people wanted to know how to pronounce my name and what my pronouns were, because with my company, I actually spoke to someone, and when I first started, I asked her what her pronouns were. And she was like, well, I prefer to go by her or they or them. And I was like, well, how do you use the they or them? So and then after I asked her that, she emailed me and she was like, I've been at Soliant for 4 years and no one has ever asked me my pronouns. And they have a big LGBTQ community. So that was just the start of me realizing that I'm going to get everything I need from this company, but I definitely want to transition to somewhere where I can, help them through the challenges.
That's great. That's fantastic. Yeah.
I didn't want to interrupt. I did send a message to all the other breakout rooms. We got about 4 minutes left until we regroup.
Great. Are there other, maybe when there's some time at the end, we can talk a little bit, Julie and Tanya, about our community conversations, but
that's what I was going to respond with.
Yeah, but let's try and take some, if there's other specific questions that we can help people with, or, and then Samaya, we can talk a little bit more about, I think it was you that had the question in the chat about how do we create safe spaces and how do we lean in to those uncomfortable conversations so that we're creating awareness and we're all learning from each other. We could, kind of outline some of the things that we're doing. And we have another community conversation coming up in a couple of weeks that Julie and has been planning and Tanya's participating in. Other questions for us? Will, what are some of the other questions that you think or that you've heard from people offline that you might be helpful for us to share? Hey, look, nothing's off limits for us.
I think I always find it interesting as to where people came from. How did they end up at the company where they work? So, for example, you, Carrie, how did you end up at VHB? What was your path to VHB?
Yeah, so I worked at another engineering company, and again, it was like how Meredith was talking about it. Like it was really business focused. And again, coming from HR, when I showed up for my interview and I had the best experience, right? And it was, people were genuinely interested. They wanted to learn from me. I heard about the cool projects and, I was sold. And then every day after that, I just was like pinching myself, like, how lucky am I that I get to work with these amazing people who've become my friends. And so that's what I worked in the industry, and I had heard a lot about VHB. They were on my radar, and I heard they were different. And my first experience in my interview was, God, this is where I want to be. So that's how I came there. I'll tell you really quickly, Julie came to VHB through, and I'll let you talk, Julie, in a second, through an acquisition. And I met her doing due diligence from a company that we wanted to acquire. And I got to meet her and, some of her team members through that. And so, and she's grown her career to where she's head of HR. So sorry, Julie, I'm talking for you.
That's okay.
I told you, I warned you all about me talking a lot.
It's totally fine. I will just quickly say I was with a firm we were at about 150 people, and I was and VHB acquired our organization back in 2010, and I was a little terrified to join because it felt so much bigger from the organization I was coming from, and I came on board, and it was like that small, connected, like family feel that I had that was it was just the same at VHB, and even more connected because even though we're spread out across offices, you still feel connected to all of the employees. So it really has that really special, unique culture that I was used to in a small organization, but was scared I was going to lose when I joined. And it was absolutely not something that really ever went away. It got stronger here. So it was great.
Excellent. And Tonya, how did you end up at VHB?
Oh my gosh. So I think it was like the perfect storm. I was working for a much larger organization, and which I had started out at a much smaller firm, but they got acquired by a publicly traded company. So by the time I worked there for, believe it or not, almost 20 years before I got the call from a VHB recruiter. But again, like Carrie and Julie said, something about the culture. And then it was something about them inviting me to have a seat at the table, because a lot of people that look like me don't have a seat at the table. Well, here it was obvious from the time I met them that, I matter, my opinion matters. They want to know from me my experiences and incorporate that into the VHB way. So that was how I ended up at VHB about 5 months ago. So I'm the baby here. I might be the oldest, but I'm the baby here.
Well, excellent. I know the breakout rooms are sort of closing up, and we're getting our guests back into the main lobby. So once everybody is back into our main lobby here in about 20 seconds, we will we'll give the last word to Mike and Carrie, and then next steps. So we got about 5 seconds and everybody should be back.
Okay, well, we got everyone.
Excellent. Thanks, Matt. Okay, so before we jump into next steps, I wanted to give Mike and Carrie sort of the last word, to address our candidates this evening. So Mike, if you're still with us.
I am here. Sorry, I got muted when I came back in. I jumped in and I chatted with some people in the planning room, so I didn't get around to all the different rooms, but I just appreciate you joining us tonight, even just in the chat room, the kind of interest, the enthusiasm, people kind of talking about what they're hoping to do with their careers. I hope, something we said here tonight connected with you, gave you some inspiration or gave you some thoughts about looking further into opportunities with VHB. And just really thank you for joining us. And Will, thanks for hosting us tonight. We appreciate it. It's been a great evening.
No, it's my pleasure. And I thank you all for taking the time out. Like I said, it speaks highly of the company that, the employees and the leadership participate in events like this to recruit diverse candidates. So wanted to say thanks to all of you. And with that, so let's go into next steps, because I know a lot of folks are probably excited about opportunities. And Mike, did you have anything else?
No, I'm good.
Okay, perfect.
Carrie might have had something.
Carrie, did you have anything?
No, just Will, thank you for the partnership. And we're so excited to have connected with so many of you. Reach out to us, and you're about to, do what I was going to say. So go for it, Will. Thank you.
No problem. And thank you. Sorry about that. So what I wanted to do is for all the candidates, I know you've learned a lot about VHB this evening, and some of you may be ready to take advantage of the opportunities that are available. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to email you a link to where you can actually sign up and submit your information. I'm also going to share your resume if you pre-registered for this event. But if you did not pre-register for the event, just go to hbcuconnect.com/VHB. And that way I'll have your resume once you submit that, and I'll share it with the team. Then I'll email everyone, not only the recording from tonight's event, but I'll email you the next steps, how you can connect with VHB via LinkedIn, as well as through a special landing page that they set up for candidates from this event. So you'll be able to register, get your name in the hat for consideration, and they also get into the stream of communication for opportunities directly from VHB. So with that, let me also introduce Tonya Goring. So Tonya, I'm actually going to share Tonya's information in the email that I send over. But Tonya is a HR director there at VHB, and she can be a contact person for you as a participant of this event. So Tonya, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. So if I haven't connected with you already via LinkedIn, you'll be receiving my email from Will, and it's also going to be in the chat here shortly. So please feel free to reach out and connect with me. I'm interested in hearing your stories and hearing what your path is and your future looks like and your goals. So thank you. Excellent.
So thanks again to VHB. Thanks again to all of the team members that have taken the time out to share the opportunities, and especially thank you to all of the participants and the candidates, because without you guys coming to these events, we can't do these events. So you guys make these events a real, realistic opportunity for a win-win, for VHB to potentially hire great talent, and for you to get life-changing career opportunities. So thank you all for participating, and I'll give the very last word to Mike.
Have a great evening, everybody. Thanks again. Like I said, it was wonderful just to talk to the few that I did here tonight, and best of luck in your careers. And I hope our paths cross again in the future.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Okay. Good night, everyone.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you, Will.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Good night. Thanks for the event.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you.